Hello and welcome back to Speaking and Presenting in English with Professor Barry. We are in week 14. And what does that mean? That's right, it means final exam review week. Final exam review week this week, because next week is the makeup week, where we will not have a class, and the following week we'll have our final exam. So for today's class, I have prepared for you a review of all of the units and material that we have covered so far this semester. You'll notice the first few slides are repeats from our midterm review. And so I put them in this presentation just as a reminder about the material for the first 8 units or so. And then I've added some additional information for the last 4 units that we just covered the last few weeks. I also kept in the information about grades, just to again give you a reminder about how grades will work this semester. Not everyone can get an A or B, so there are limits for the number of A's, B's, etc. And just to remind you about that. And our final exam, still waiting to hear from the university about exactly how to do it. But as of now, it will probably be a multiple choice or short answer exam, similar to our weekly quizzes. If you think about our weekly quizzes, there's some grammar and vocabulary questions in there, and it will be similar to that, but it'll be longer, of course. And I'll give you more details about that next week. So let's get started. Okay, please ignore this purple chart here. Things have changed a bit since I made this slide. So now 60% of the class can get A's, maximum, and the rest can get B's, C's, D's, or F's. So the numbers in this chart have changed a little bit, so you can just ignore that. The rest of the chart is still important. How I will grade you, the final exam will be very important in this class. It'll be about 60% of your final grade, so make sure you study hard so you can do well on the final exam. And then after that, I'll be looking at effort, turning in all your assignments on time, and attendance. So that is all I have to say about grades. All right, and this is just going to be a real quick review of what we've learned so far this semester, going through each unit that we've studied. I've got the key structures here. I did not put all of the vocabulary here. You'll need to refer to your book or your previous notes and previous lesson PPTs, movies on YouTube, to have all of the vocabulary. But I've got the key structures here, so sentences you should be able to say by this point, and I'll go through and give some examples in each of these. So of course we need, with unit 1 we talked about introductions. You should be able to introduce yourself. So here's my example for these sentences. My name is Barry. I'm 41 years old. I'm from Chicago. I live in Daegu. My hobby is traveling in my free time. I enjoy traveling, or I like to travel. My favorite, let's see, what could I do? Let's do food. My favorite food is samgyeopsal. And actually, I also really love kimchi jjimm. That's probably my favorite Korean food, is kimchi jjimm. Okay, next we have seasons. So with seasons, you should be able to talk about your favorite. So in my case, my favorite season is fall, and my least favorite season is summer. we talked about days and months and how to use in and on. So if I want to tell you the month, I could say my birthday is in January. And if I want to tell you the day, my birthday is on January 11th. And my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. I like Thanksgiving because I love Thanksgiving food, and I also like to watch football, and I can do both of those things on Thanksgiving Day. Next we have family, unit 3. So again, we're sentences here telling about your family members. So for example, there are 4 people in my family, and then you can talk about ages. So my mom is 60 years old, for example, and then we also have personalities. So my brother is very talkative, or my dad is very funny. And then you can talk about what they enjoy, what they like to do for their hobbies. So my mom loves to work in her garden, or my father enjoys reading, or my brother is a big fan of K-pop, for example. Okay, then we'll move on to the next section. Here we had Unit 4, dates. For example, my dream date consists of, and then you would say what you did, what you want to do. So my dream date consists of dinner and a movie. Or my dream date consists of a day at an amusement park. Please excuse my screaming daughter in the living room. Then we also studied these sort of transition words to describe steps, or what you're going to do first and next. And so, for example, first we'll go see a movie. Next we'll have dinner. And then lastly we'll have coffee and dessert at a coffee shop, for example. And then the next sentence will help you describe why you think a date is good. So for example, I think a movie is good because we can enjoy the movie and not have to talk too much. Or I think going to an amusement park is good because there's lots of fun things to do. And then the last one, this will give us a chance to, and then you say what you can do. So, for example, if you go to a coffee shop after the movie, you can say, this will give us a chance to talk about the movie, for example. Okay, after dates, we had Unit 5, which was about travel. And so this is mostly past tense because you described a trip that you went on. So make a note of the past tense verbs here. So I went to, for example, Singapore. I stayed there for maybe 5 days or 6 days. In Korean, you generally say like the number of days and nights, right? So like ilbak iil, but that sounds a little strange in English, so you don't need to say that. We usually just pick one, like days. So I was there for 5 days. If you say days and nights, it sounds a little awkward in English. The next one we can use to talk about a hotel. So I stayed in a hotel, or I stayed at the Marina Bay Sands, for example. And there are so many things to do in Singapore. I flew there, so I traveled by plane. I flew there from Incheon, or I flew there from Daegu, or I flew there from Busan. And I had an amazing time. I had a great time in Singapore. Then in Unit 8, we talked about rooms and a house. So your favorite room and what's in it. So my favorite room is my living room. If there's one thing you're going to talk about, there is. So there's a sofa, Or there are plants, there are flowers by the window. And you can also use it has to describe what's in the room. So it has floor to ceiling windows, for example. You can also use we have. So, for example, you could say there is a sofa, or also you could say we have a sofa. Both of those work. And we also talked about prepositions, useful prepositions to describe things in your rooms. So, for example, across from the sofa is our TV, or there is a coffee table in the middle of my living room, or the bookshelf is next to the TV. So lots of prepositions there to describe what's in the room. That brings us to Unit 9, which was about jobs, and we focused on dream jobs, what you want to do after you graduate from university. And one way to say that is I want to be for example, I want to be a physical therapist, or I want to be an optician or an optometrist. I hope to become a doctor. And then you'll notice the next examples have an S at the end, because now you're going to use the job and make it plural, add that S to talk about all people who do that job. So, for example, pilots need a lot of training, or pilots have to be good at math, or government workers spend most of their time in an office, or pilots spend most of their time in planes or airports. Okay, the next one is your work environment. So physical therapists work in hospitals, for example. And then we talked about money. So pilots earn maybe 150 million won per year. And then finally, that's why I want to be a pilot, or that's why I want to be a physical therapist. When you explain the reason you want to do that job. And last week we did Unit 10, which we did not actually use the book for. If you remember, I changed everything in that unit to focus in on TV shows. And so the important things from that unit are talking about words like series. So my favorite series is Breaking Bad. And then you're going to talk about the genre. For example, it's a thriller. Or I binge watched, let's see, last weekend I binge watched Money Heist on Netflix. I'm really into Better Call Saul these days. I watch that every week. My friend is hooked on, let's see, what is my friend hooked on? My friend is hooked on Friends, the sitcom Friends. And then when you want to say who the actor's name, who is in a show, you use in, right? So, for example, David Schwimmer is in Friends. And then we have the word seasons here to talk about how many seasons a show has. I think I said that Breaking Bad has 5 seasons, and each season has about 7 episodes. And then we use the preposition on to describe where the show appears, how you watch it. So maybe it's on Netflix, maybe it's on a TV channel like NBC, or maybe it's on YouTube. Okay, in Unit 11, we talked about food, and some important things you'll need to remember here are these phrases, expressions, etc. that you see on the slide. So, for example, what do we need, or what else do we need? We don't have any, and then put in the food there. So, for example, we don't have any milk, we don't have any pizza. What do you want to eat? I like or don't like. So, I like Indian food. I don't like Chinese food. My favorite momo is momo. So, my favorite Korean food is kimchi. Not really. My favorite Korean food is kimchi jjim, actually. Or you could say my favorite dessert is Oreo papingsu. Or my favorite pizza restaurant or pizza place is Domino's. So lots of different things you could do with that sentence structure. My favorite meal includes, and then you would list the things that are in your favorite meal. This comes from the presentation in this unit. So my favorite meal includes hamburgers, fries, and a milkshake, for example. On the side is, so this is talking about side dishes. On the side is an order of French fries. I prefer my momo. So one example here, I prefer my steak well done, or I prefer my French fries cheesy, or I prefer my French fries crispy. So in the next unit we had shopping. So the vocabulary for shopping will be important. There might be some vocab translation questions on the final. So you'll need to know the Korean and English words for the vocab that we focused on. If there's a big vocab list, of course you don't need to know all of them, but just look back at the PowerPoints that are the movies I uploaded for you, and take a note of which words I focused on. Okay. So when you're talking about shopping, how much was your computer? How much was that car? It was, and then the price. It was 200만 won, for example. It was 2 million won. I bought, so past tense of buy. I bought a new computer last week. I bought a puppy for my daughter yesterday, for example. That's not true, by the way. Place you like to shop at. I like to shop at eMart. My favorite thing to shop for is clothes. Or my favorite things to shop for are electronics and cars. Right? Both A and B are expensive, for example. So when you're saying two things are similar, and if you're saying they both don't have something, neither A nor B is expensive, for example. So those are some tips for food and the food and shopping units. And we've got a couple more units in the next slide. In Unit 13, we did hobbies. And I have just copied and pasted the grammar tips from that unit. These will be important. I enjoy doing something, the ing on there. I like doing something or to do something. So I like traveling. I like to travel. And if you want to use love, you can also use the ing form or the infinitive to form. So I love eating ice cream. I love to eat ice cream. And then we've got a few example sentences. My main hobby is, for example, traveling. Traveling helps me relax, maybe, if you find it relaxing. I would recommend traveling to anyone who enjoys seeing new places or likes to meet new people. One big advantage of traveling is I can meet new people or I can see new places. So you could use any of those sentences and just replace traveling with your hobby and benefits of your hobby. In Unit 6, we did jimjabang, which was our last lesson. Again, vocabulary here that I focused on in that movie will be important. A few phrases you should know. Let's go to suggest a place. Let's go to a jimjabang. Let's go to a singing room. let's go to what else? Let's go to a movie, right? Let's go see a movie. And then we used should and shouldn't for giving advice. You should, what should you do? You should do this. You shouldn't do this. And then insert day, every Sunday, weekend, etc. I go to. So for example, every weekend I go to Costco. Not true. I try to stay away from Costco on the weekend. And then how you feel after doing this activity. I feel totally refreshed after I go to the Jinzabang, or I feel totally refreshed after I sing in the singing room. Okay, that is it for our different units in this review. In the next slide, I'll wrap it up, and that'll be it for this week. Okay, so that is all for this final exam review. Again, your final exam will be similar to our weekly quizzes. It will just be longer. It will cover information from all of the units that we have covered so far in this semester. Some will be multiple choice where you have to choose A, B, C, or D, for example. Some will be short answer. There will be some vocabulary, some translations on there. There will be some true or false questions on there as well. So think of it as a really big quiz. Speaking of quizzes, there is also a quiz for this week, week 14. And that will be just a little mini test, a mini review that will help. I'll include questions from all of the units here, and that will help get you ready for the big final exam that's coming. And it looks like our final exam will be on June 30th. I have to double check about the time. I would like it to be open for you to do it when you have time. But it looks like it needs to be done by the end of our regular class time on June 30th. But I will send out a Kakao message a week or so before the exam to let you know exactly what's happening, when it will be available, and how much time you have to do it, and answer any questions that you have. All right, so that is it for now. As always, comment under this video. Remember to go to Canvas to take your quiz. And no presentation this week. Good luck with your quiz, and stay tuned. Keep an eye on Kakao for a message from me about final exams and detailed information in the next week or so. And as always, if you have any questions, send me a message on Kakao, and I will get back to you quickly. I hope you've enjoyed this review, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.